Hello YouTube, my name is Bowtied Media, and today I have an album review for you guys, and it is Conro's Level Days album. Conro is a Canadian electronic music producer, singer, songwriter type artist who is from the interior of BC and has been a part of the Monster Cat family and the Monster Cat community since 2016. He first released On My Way Up back in January of 2016 and has pretty much been with the Monster Cat family ever since, has released pretty exclusively with them, maybe only up to 5, 6, 7 releases off of the label. And so this is awesome to see his first debut album actually coming out and on Monster Cat. Conro had 3 EPs with Monster Cat. In 2017, he released Connecting the Dots, his first EP. In 2018, he released All Eyes on Me, which had 9 tracks, and a lot of people actually thought of it as an album, although he said, no, this is an EP. And then back last year in 2019, he released Thrill of It, which was his 3rd EP. And now in 2020, we have Level Days LP. We have his first and his debut LP, Level Days. Conro is known for his blend of future bass and deep house, as well as some just kind of summer vibes. He likes to play it more playful and more poppy, more fruity. He likes to add a lot of that kind of almost pop mentality to his electronic production. And along with that, this album, while it is a stray from his normal kind of production styles of the future bass and kind of deep house hybrid blend, it is still very fun and poppy and a summer vibes, and there's just a lot going there. It's just like a fun, engaging music. Stuff that a lot of people, I guess, enjoy, people that don't normally listen to electronic music. I know often if you listen to a lot of electronic music, you know that there's certain electronic music that you would play for your family or other friends that don't listen to it, and you go, oh, this is a good song, and they don't really recognize it as electronic, if that makes sense. It's something that's kind of hard to convey, but it makes a lot of sense if you actually go and you have your phone and you're like, I'm trying to play something. Okay, now I understand what's going on. So Conro's kind of a perfect artist for that. Conro's life has actually been really exciting this past couple months, and it's all kind of come to the climax of this moment now with his album. Conro actually was engaged for a while, and obviously it resulted in a marriage, and he had a wedding recently, and so he and his wife now have been together for a little bit of time, but now he's released his first album, Level Days, and so in his life, I guess right now, he's on, I guess, a really big high of just production, kind of just life right now. And so you see a lot of this throughout the album. You can see a lot of the more fun and just how happy he is, and you can tell it in the vocals, you can tell it in his production style. It's just a nice vibe. So this album was originally actually called Therapy, based off of the 3rd track in the album, Therapy. Obviously, it was going to be the title track, but had since changed to Level Days. This album has 38 minutes of bliss in it, as well as 12 songs, which the last 2 are an acoustic and a more instrumental. So 10 that really fit together thematically with a kind of add-on finale, and then a nice almost bonus track, which I'll get to a little bit later. But there's no interludes, it's just 12 songs, 38 minutes. I think a good length for electronic album, especially one, I guess, on Monster Cat, where they kind of go for this length in terms of compared to old Monster Cat albums of individual artists. But yeah, I think the timing is great. It doesn't extend its stay too long, and it also isn't too short. I think by the end of the album, once it finished, I was like, oh yeah, that felt like the right amount of time. Conro kind of has this very distinct future bass, kind of future house, deep house hybrid style. And while he does go to it a little bit in this album, he actually strays away from that quite a bit. A lot of the stuff is actually labeled as indie dance, as according to Monster Cat, but that's not often what he does. He has a lot of vibes and, I guess, the feeling of songs being indie dance and that kind of more, the more indie-tronic kind of vibe to it. But this is very much a pure, almost indie dance album, I would say. I wouldn't say I wouldn't label it just as indie dance, the entire album as a whole, but a lot of the songs are. I think it's 6 or 7 of them are labeled as such, and you can tell that specifically in what you're listening to, obviously, because it's the album. And nothing is more evident than in what was supposed to be the title track, Therapy. This song, like I said earlier, I think is my favorite off the Level Days LP. Conro often doesn't go for a kind of heavy guitar riff or kind of more like distorted sound to it most of the times. He only pretty much goes for an acoustic to either lay on the back or an electric guitar every now and then. But Conro goes for a hard-hitting electric guitar in the sense with like highly distorted, and I love it. I think it's an awesome riff, and it kind of adds with his regular vocals not pitched up or anything, kind of at a lower level. They work really well well in a balance together, and I think it complements the song very well. I think that after 4 years of listening to his kind of future bass, deep house hybrid, this is a really nice change and a really nice shift in Conro's kind of production style. We've been seeing it a lot with the singles that have come out. Obviously, the 3 singles that came out beforehand, Without Your Love, Fighters, and The Small Things, we get to see that kind of more shift. And I noticed that as the singles were coming out, I was like, oh, wait a second, this isn't going to be like Thrill of It or All Eyes on Me, which heavily relied on that style. And while it's different, I prefer the kind of old Conro style in that sense. I do like this. It is a lot more fun, it's a lot more engaging. I think this album reaches a wider audience than his other projects would have, his last 3 EPs, where Connecting the Dots was more future bass oriented, All Eyes on Me was a bit of both, but a lot more deep house, and then Thrill of It was definitely deep house. It's always interesting to hear people and to me to feel that the singles are the best on the album. If the singles are the best on the album, is it a good album? Does it automatically make it a bad album? Does it make it a great album? I find a lot of the general consensus is that if the singles are the best in the album, it's not a generally good album. And that's true and not true in this case. I think the first 4 being the singles, Therapy being the one that was released with the album Level Days, I think the first 4 of them, the first 4 being the singles, are the best songs on the album. But the songs after that follow, the next 8 songs, are very, very good, just not as good, if that makes sense. So I'd say like the top 4 are like 8 out of 10s, and then after that they're like 7 or 6 out of 10s. So they're still good songs, but they're not quite the grand finale. They don't feel like single releases. It's really refreshing to see that Conro actually pretty much independently performs and produces all of the tracks on this album. All 12 of them have credits, both writing and producing and performing by Conro himself. There's only one other instance of this where Nev has a song with Way Up. The 2 of them perform, which actually Nev has a production credit on it too, which is something I don't normally see. Obviously, they're just kind of a group of vocalists, but it's nice to see that they have also a production feature on here. But in terms of writing the songs also, there's all of but I believe 7 songs are fully independently written by Conro, and 5 of them have writing credits to other people. So it's really nice to see that in a world where there's a lot of people producing one album, this is pretty much just Conro's child. Like, it's Conro's baby, it's Conro's production. And so I just love to see that, and it's a great refreshing look into music in general. So looking at some individual songs, Way Up feels like old Conro. It feels like the old vibe from Connecting the Dots. There's a point at the drop where Nev has a vocalist that sounds almost exactly like Chardonnay does, where in Chardonnay they say sipping on Chardonnay. There's a point right in it in Way Up that I'm not going to do, but that sounds just like it, and I really like that. It's kind of a throwback almost to Conro's old style, mixed in with everything else that kind of is this more indie dance, which I've talked about before. And so I'm a big fan of Way Up. Nev's vocals really add a lot to the song. Conro often doesn't, not often, but he's in the recent days not worked a ton with female vocalists. But I think the 2 vocalists really work well together, Conro and Nev, and it's just a great song. It's a great future bass song. Some of the concerns I have though with some of the other songs is that after you get through the first kind of 5 or 6 songs, they all start to feel a little more repetitive. They start to feel like a little bit of filler, or even so much so in the second last song, Say It, there isn't really a lot happening. Obviously, it's an instrumental track. There's no vocals, or well, not a ton of vocals. There's not a lot of lyrics. There's a lot of like distorted, like almost robotic vocals in it. But there's just not a lot happening in it, and it feels like, oh, I've kind of heard this again at this point. And that's why I think the 38 minutes, 12 tracks is really good, and it kind of brings it down to kind of what it needed to be. I think that track was a little bit more experimental on Conro's side. He hasn't done a ton like it in the past. And so I think it's him kind of expanding his vocal chops, or his working with vocal chops, and kind of expanding his more production style. But in that sense, I mean, it wasn't a favorite of mine. I'd probably say it was my least favorite of the album. I think what gives Conro his kind of summer vibe style is his use of acoustic guitar and electric guitar throughout the entire album. He often layers an acoustic guitar just strumming with what he's producing electronically, and he layers them on the same wave, pretty much the same wavelength, if that makes sense. And it works really well, and it adds that kind of feeling that, oh, I'm, again, like I said, I'm sitting on a beach, I'm listening to this guy's music. And so I think that's what adds a lot to it, and it's more of a distinct Conro style. If I were to be picky though, I think Conro's lyrics are really shallow. Not shallow as in like they're digging in deep to someone, but they don't have much substance to them. Because his style is more of a party rock, kind of just fun, fruity album, he doesn't tackle deeper things. He doesn't tackle like hard conversations or hard topics or anything. He just is like kind of throwing everything up in the air, and everything's a little cliche all the time. And I think Tattoo is a perfect example of that. In the song, he says, "What you write on my heart stays true. I'm gonna wear it like a tattoo." Which, I mean, it's not a bad lyric, but it's so cliche to say that you wear something on your, like, heart on your sleeve, or wear it like a tattoo, or it's just like, I mean, we've heard it a million times, and not that I hate it, it's just like, okay, yeah, I mean, we can come up with some more songs, right? Some more lyrics. I think the worst defender of kind of poor lyrics and just dumb lyrics in general is actually from Dreaming, when he says, "In a trailer, no need for favors, because I'll be laughing when I'm Justin Bieber's neighbor." I listened to that the first time, I was like, okay, that's just like, sure, it's fun in that sense, but I mean, I think you can do better, Conro. I think there's a lot more you could do with that. It just feels like a really cheesy line. Tying it all in thematically, ironically, I think there isn't much of a thematic element to it. There's not really a story or a narrative that runs throughout the entire album. There's kind of the feeling and the production, just elements and everything that goes with it, and how he puts it all together to make it feel like it all is cohesive and works in that sense. But in terms of lyrical content or what he's going for emotional wise, there's not like a flow. It's not. Yeah, and I mean, there doesn't have to be. This isn't an album that's supposed to be. It's not going to be one of your, I don't know, like your Porter Robinsons. It's not Worlds, where it's got this grand narrative that's spread out throughout, and this is like a once in a lifetime album type thing. This is Conro who's making fun beach music, and so I don't think there needs to be that. But I mean, I would like if there was a little more of a, I don't know, just a constant throughout. Maybe he talks about his then fiance and now wife just a little bit more throughout, or has more direct references to that. But I say that, and then we get to the final track, Here to Stay. This is a phenomenal acoustic track. I actually don't really like acoustic songs normally, but this is really, really good. When I heard Lalo first of his acoustic back in a while ago, I thought it was pretty good, but not like my favorite acoustic stuff, obviously. But Here to Stay is just phenomenal. It really is a love letter to his wife, and all of, I guess, the love that comes with that. It feels like a song that he may have sang at their wedding or something like that. Just a pure, like, almost just innocent love song. And it's great. Conro really shows that he can spread his wings in that sense and be more acoustic. He doesn't have to just stay with this electronic indie dance, future bass, deep house style, that he can be more like emotional and add more depth to his style. But overall, this album was super funky, super fun, super vibey. There isn't a ton of substance to it, but I mean, this is not what the album is exactly going for. It's not going to be this grand emotional album. And so in that sense, I would rate this a 7. And my scoring system is out of 10, no half points, so I'm giving this album a 7 out of 10. I think it's a great album. I think obviously Conro can do better than this, but yeah, it's a great first debut album. Thank you very much for watching, guys. I've been Bowtied Media. If you want me to review an album that's coming up or something that just recently has come out, let me know in the comments below if you want to see my take on it and my opinion on it. If you want to see all of my albums that I've rated in the future, this is obviously going to be the first one. You can go to Album of the Year. A link will be below, and you can see my profile to all that I am following and all that I'm reviewing. And sometimes you'll even get to see what my scores are before it goes live on YouTube. But thanks for watching, guys. I will see you guys in another video.